Discover this incredible love story. 3 hidden secrets that will change your perspective forever. In the heart of a small Midwest town, Sarah stirred her famous chocolate chip cookie dough, the scent wafting through her cozy bakery's sweet serenity. Every day was a dance of flour, sugar, and determination, as she poured love into her treats while navigating the unpredictable maze of single motherhood. Ethan, her 10-year-old son, gleefully chased dreams of baseball glory, his laughter filling their little home. Yet, beneath the surface of this idyllic life lay the sharp edges of judgment, a community with whispers that echoed the town's economic divide. The townsfolk often saw her low income as a measure of her worth. How does she expect to provide for her son? They'd secretly wonder, as if her struggles painted her a lesser being. Despite their unkind glances, Sarah remained resilient, determined to instill the values of hard work and honesty within Ethan, telling him that true success comes from the heart. Fridays were always special. Townsfolk gathered for baseball games, sharing laughter and connections. In the midst of one such gathering, while the crack of bat against ball resonated through the air, Sarah spotted Jack. This charming widower, fresh from military service, found solace in her pastries, his eyes lighting up with every bite. Their connection blossomed amidst the sweet crumbs and shared laughter, offering hope when life felt uncertain. But small-town dynamics brought complications. As whispers about Jack's intentions began to circulate alongside false judgments about Sarah's parenting, a wave of discomfort rippled through their budding romance. It was during one fateful potluck filled with laughter and distant glances that Ethan faced the brunt of community scrutiny. He stumbled in a crucial game, and suddenly the tests of public opinion weighed on his small shoulders. The kids laughed at him, and Sarah's heart clenched in indignation for her son. She had taught him to dream big. Did the town really want to crush that spirit? Ethan's struggles served as an unsettling reminder of the town's deeper prejudices, challenging everything Sarah held as true. In an attempt to combat the negativity, she organized a bake sale, hoping to unite the town's spirit of kindness. As she baked vibrant cupcakes and addictive brownies, Sarah silently longed for the community to see beyond the surface, beyond the stigma of low income, beyond the weight of judgment. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the bake sale approached, Sarah poured her heart into every cupcake, hoping to spread joy while silently battling loneliness. But beneath her careful strength was a simmering need for acceptance. Just when she thought the community might pull together, small-town gaze shifted once again. The air was thick with tension as Jack stepped up, his voice booming and clear as he challenged the skeptics, defending both Sarah and Ethan's honor. It was a moment that caught everyone off guard, forcing them to confront their biases. But as hope began to twinkle through the doubts, a shocking revelation loomed on the horizon, something that could unravel the very fabric of Sarah's world. In this quiet town, would love prove strong enough to overcome the weight of judgment? As the bake sale neared, one thing was certain. Sarah's journey had only just begun. Would she find the resilience needed to stand against a community that cast shadows on her light? The story hung in the balance, a tender tale waiting to unfold. The day of the bake sale dawned bright and full of promise. Sarah arrived at the town square early, nerves bubbling inside her like the dough she'd mixed just the night before. The scent of vanilla and chocolate lingered as she set up her booth beneath a colorful awning. Vibrant banners adorned with cheerful drawings by Ethan fluttered gently in the breeze. Each cupcake and brownie was delicately arranged, showcasing her passion for baking. As the townsfolk began to gather, Sarah noticed a distinct chill in the air. Eyes flickered her way, some warm with admiration, but many sharp with lingering judgment. She could feel their whispers, faint but cutting, as she smiled and greeted old friends who stopped by her stand. "These look delicious, Sarah," one woman exclaimed, though her smile seemed rehearsed. "Thank you. I hope they bring a little joy," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the storm brewing within her. Ethan was nearby, sporting his baseball cap backward, eagerly promoting brownies among the children playing nearby. Their laughter rang like music, contagious and uplifting. Yet, Sarah knew that not all eyes were gentle. As she handed a cupcake to a little girl, she caught sight of a pair of mothers whispering, casting an appraising gaze on Ethan. It stung, a reminder that in this small-town tapestry, threads of judgment were tightly woven. "Mom, look. My friends love the brownies," Ethan announced, beaming as a group of kids began to gather, eager for more. Sarah's heart swelled with pride, but it came with a tinge of worry. What if things turned? What if they turned back to him just like before? Amidst the bustle, Jack appeared, his presence a calming balm. Dressed in a simple shirt, he approached with an easy smile. "This place looks fantastic, Sarah. You've really outdone yourself," he said, taking in the scene as he caught Ethan's excited chatter. "Thanks. I just want everyone to feel welcome," she replied, grateful for his warmth. Jack did not just enjoy her baking. He understood the work and love that went into every bite as people began lining up for treats. Sarah felt a shift in energy. Conversations began to flourish around her stand. Familiar faces lightened, laughter echoed ever louder. Maybe the bake sale was a chance for something new, something hopeful. But just as she began to believe the moment would last, a voice cut through the air, slicing through the joyful mingling. "Why are we even supporting her?" one of the mothers asked, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "What kind of example does she set for our kids?" Gasps filled the air and time stood still. Sarah's hands trembled as she grabbed the edge of the table. Heat surged in her chest, a mix of anger and hurt. Ethan looked up, his smile faltering, confusion washing over his innocent face. She glanced at Jack, who stepped forward, determination lighting up his features. "This isn't just about her. This is about community. Sarah pours her heart into this town and into her son. Isn't that what we want for our kids?" His voice rang clear, unwavering. A wave of mutters spread through the crowd. Sarah held her breath, her heart racing. Would they listen? Would they finally see the truth? As the room buzzed with uncertainty, Sarah took a deep breath. She found courage. "This is my life. I'm not asking for pity, just understanding," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "Ethan and I are here, ready to be a part of this town if you'll let us." In that moment, Sarah felt a shift within herself. Would they embrace her honesty? Or would they retreat into their comfortable judgments? She could only hope for the best. Just then a young girl stepped forward holding a cupcake tightly. "I like her cupcakes. They're the best." Everyone turned, some faces softening. What would happen next? Would the tensions ease, or were they poised to explode? The undercurrents of community and courage were more palpable than ever, and Sarah could only wait for the tide to turn. The young girl's heartfelt declaration hung in the air, creating a fragile bridge between judgment and acceptance. Sarah's heart raced as she searched the crowd, hoping to see a flicker of understanding. The whispers waned, replaced by an anticipatory silence. With every small smile from the townsfolk, she felt a flicker of hope igniting. Then, the mother who had spoken out stepped forward. Her face was a canvas of emotions: anger, regret, perhaps even confusion. "It's just I want to protect my kids," she stumbled, voice faltering. "We all want what's best, but what?" Jack interjected, keeping his voice steady and calm. "What's best for our kids is learning empathy, understanding, and seeing the value in people beyond their past." His words pierced through the thick tension. Sarah felt a jolt of gratitude for Jack. His conviction shone bright, sparking a fire in others. Another woman, usually reserved, spoke up next, her voice softer. "I remember when I first moved here. Sarah helped me feel at home. She shared recipes, and her kindness meant everything." The shift in tone was palpable. One by one, voices joined in, each sharing snippets of how Sarah had touched their lives. A middle-aged man, who had been quiet until now, chimed in. "I bought my first birthday cake for my daughter from Sarah. It was beautiful, and she took the time to make it just right." His sincerity cast a ripple through the gathering. Encouragement blossomed in waves, carrying murmurs of support. Glances exchanged among the crowd transformed from scorn to solidarity. Sarah's pulse quickened. In that pulsating environment, she felt something shift deep within her, as if unseen weights were being lifted off her shoulders. With Ethan at her side, watching, Sarah leaned into the moment. "I want to be a part of this community. I want my son to grow up knowing he has friends and a future here. Her words trembled but held a weight that resonated with newfound strength. Ethan, his innocent charm intact, called out, "And my brownies are really good." Laughter erupted. The tension at the bake sale seemed to dissolve, replaced by giggles and chatter. For the first time, Sarah felt glimpses of acceptance weaving into the fabric of the community. Maybe they were learning too. But just when the air thickened with optimism, Sarah saw the same mother uncertain and still struggling with her own biases. When their eyes met, Sarah felt the flicker of fear that had lived within her for so long. Would it be easy to forgive? Would the town allow her to truly belong? As the day wore on and the bake sale thrived despite its rocky start, a part of Sarah remained vigilant. She apprehensively scanned the crowd, half expecting the tension to snap back. Conflicting emotions clawed at her. She felt emboldened but scared. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over the town square. The laughter of children and scents of baked goods mingled with anticipation. What if the tides changed again? What would happen if they slowly came to terms with their own discomfort? Suddenly, the same mother who had challenged her stepped forward again, her expression softening. "Can we talk, Sarah? I think we need to understand each other better." Sarah blinked, her heart pounding. Was this the moment that would define her place in the town? For every step forward she had taken that day, this could be the leap toward acceptance she yearned for. What would she say? Could she open up enough to take that chance? Sarah's breath caught in her throat, and she wondered if this conversation could truly bridge the divide, or would it tear them apart again? Sarah's heart raced as she nodded slowly, her throat dry. Every instinct told her to be cautious, to retreat to the familiar safety of silence. But something in the woman's eyes urged her to step forward, to let the walls crumble just a little. "Okay," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'd like that." The woman took a breath, gathering her thoughts. The crowd's energy buzzed around them, but in that moment, everything faded into a distant hum. "I know we haven't seen eye to eye," she began, her tone more reflective than accusatory. "I was quick to judge. When I heard about your past, all I could think about was my children." She paused, glancing at Ethan, who was dancing joyfully to a song playing from a nearby speaker. "I didn't want them to feel unsafe." Sarah took a deep breath, her own memories threatening to surface, those times filled with shame and regret. "I understand," she said, her voice steadier now. "I've spent a long time being scared too. Scared of not being accepted. But I'm here. I'm trying to be a good mom and a part of this community." The woman nodded, her expression softening further. "We all have our stories, don't we? I should listen more and judged less. You know, I grew up in a rough neighborhood. I've seen hardship. I thought we were worlds apart." Sarah felt a warmth breaking through the chill of her worries. "Maybe we're not so different after all," she said, meeting the woman's eyes. "I'm just trying to do my best for Ethan. It helps when we support one another instead of pushing each other away." Just then Ethan, sensing the tone of the conversation, chimed in. "Is this about brownies? 'Cause I can share my secret recipe." The laughter that erupted made the air lighter, and even the woman couldn't help but smile, a little of the tension dissolving. For a brief moment, they shared a glimpse of possibility. The idea of acceptance felt tangible, like a favorite old sweater, warm and familiar. The other townsfolk began to congregate around them, listening attentively. This could be the turning point they all needed. "Will you join us for coffee next week?" the mother asked, hope threading through her voice. "I want to learn about you, who you are now and where you've come from." For Sarah, the invitation was more than just coffee. It was an offer to share her truth, to peel back the layers of fear. "I'd like that," she replied, her heart trembling with a mix of uncertainty and anticipation. As they stepped back into the crowd, Sarah felt lighter, like a heavy fog lifting. Conversations resumed, laughter floated on the evening breeze, and for the first time, there was a warmth to the gathering that hadn't been there before. But in the back of Sarah's mind, a flicker of doubt remained. Would this newfound connection hold when faced with old prejudices? Could one coffee change years of misunderstanding? The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows. With hesitation still lingering, she glanced back at the mother, who now wore a gentle smile. It was a glimmer of hope, but could it last? As the day faded, Sarah recalled a verse her mother used to say, the first step is often the hardest. Taking a deep breath, she wondered if she could truly step into this new journey of connection. Would the townsfolk take that leap with her, or would they retreat to old ways of thinking? The possibilities stretched out before her, wide and inviting, but would they take that risk? Would they choose to embrace a new beginning as they faced their own fears? As the sun surrendered to twilight, casting vibrant colors across the sky, Sarah felt a shift within her. She watched Ethan dance, his small frame moving with an innocence that reminded her of her own childhood, a time filled with laughter and dreams, before the shadows of her life took hold. The connection to the other mother seemed fragile yet thrilling, like the first sprouts of spring pushing through the last traces of winter. With each step she took through the crowd, Sarah's mind buzzed with thoughts of what could unfold during that coffee meeting. Would they really dive into her past? Her fears felt like heavy weights, but perhaps sharing those burdens could lighten the load. As she glanced around at the familiar faces, some warm, some wary, she realized they all carried invisible scars, stories untold. "Mom! Look at this." Ethan ran up, panting and flushed, holding a small piece of paper he'd found on the ground. A flyer for the upcoming community bake sale. "Can we make brownies?" "I can help." Sarah sighed, her heart swelling. "Of course. Let us do it together." The thought of creating something with Ethan brought a smile to her face. They wandered toward the grassy area where families laughed and shared food. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a group gathered to the side, whispering. Just as she turned her head, she saw one of the women from the neighborhood, the one who had once been vocal about her discontent with Sarah. The woman spotted Sarah and immediately exchanged glances with her friends, their expressions shifting from curiosity to disdain. It hit Sarah like a cold wave, the familiarity of judgment that had followed her all those years. "Mom?" Ethan's small voice cut through her thoughts. Concern etched on his face as he noticed her change in demeanor. "I'm okay, sweetheart," Sarah replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Yet inside, uncertainty clawed at her. Would the acceptance and warmth from today's interaction be unsustainable? Could mere words bridge the vast ocean of mistrust that had built up over time? "Hey, Sarah." It was another friend, the town baker, flashing a bright grin as she approached. "We're excited to see what you'll bring to the bake sale." "Yeah. Mom's secret ingredient is love," Ethan shouted, his excitement blissfully unaware of the tension that still lingered. Sarah chuckled, her heart swelling a bit. "It's true, but I have to share the spotlight with Ethan now." The lightness blended with the shadows, as she felt the warmth of camaraderie draw her back to the moment. But then her gaze shifted back to the whispering group. A thought wormed its way into her mind. What if they hadn't changed? What if every tentative step she was trying to take toward connection would be met with resistance? As the evening wore on, more conversations sparked around them, laughter and joy intertwined, but each chuckle seemed to echo a soft reminder of the fragility of her new budding relationship with the community. Just when she began to feel a sliver of hope, a piercing laugh erupted from the shadowed group. It felt pointed, aimed in her direction. Heads turned. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat, her heart racing again. What was that? Ethan noticed the change in her, his brows furrowing in confusion. "Just let us focus on having fun, okay?" she managed to reply, placing her hand on his shoulder. Even as she tried to assure Ethan, her instincts warned her that the challenge was far from over. Would the women's laughter die down once she stepped into the light at coffee next week? Or would it only deepen the divide? As the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Sarah found herself looking toward the future, balancing on the edge of hope and doubt. What secrets might unfold as she dared to step outside her comfort zone? And more importantly, would she have the strength to face them head-on? The atmosphere crackled with unknown possibilities, and a new layer of vulnerability hovered in the air. As the evening drew to an end, Sarah wondered how much was she willing to risk for acceptance? And could love truly conquer all when faced with the fear of rejection? The morning sun peeked through the curtains, casting soft rays over the cluttered kitchen. Sarah stood at the counter, her heart racing in rhythm with the whir of the blender. Today was the day. She stared at the ingredients spread across the countertop: flour, cocoa powder, and sugar. But it wasn't the brownie recipe stirring her sense of urgency. It was the coffee meeting with the other mother. "Is it ready yet?" Ethan's voice broke through her focus, filled with all the enthusiasm only a child could possess. His small hands were already busy lining up cupcake liners. Almost. Just a few more minutes, she replied, trying to mask her jittery nerves. The smell of melted chocolate filled the air, coaxing a smile onto her face. Remember, buddy, no double dipping when we taste. She worked to keep the moment light, but inside doubts brewed like a storm in the distance. Would they actually listen to her story, or would they only see her as the outcast they had painted her to be? Ethan giggled, his laughter bouncing off the kitchen walls. I'll be the taste tester. I'm the best at that. All right, you can be my official brownie assistant, she said, bending down to meet his eyes. But I need you to promise me something. Anything, he declared, grinning from ear to ear. Promise me that no matter what happens at the coffee, we'll stick together, she said. Her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded earnestly. Always, Mom. As they mixed the batter, the ticking of the clock seemed to echo louder. Each tick served as a reminder of the impending meeting. Paranoia prickled at the back of her mind, unshakable and blunt. Would tomorrow be the moment her past resurfaced? Or would it be an opportunity to finally heal? I can't wait for the bake sale, Ethan exclaimed, pouring the mixture into the pan. Maybe we'll win first prize. Maybe, but it's not about the prize, you know. It's about sharing something special with others. She smiled, trying to project confidence, even as her stomach churned with anticipation. Later that evening, while Ethan was tucked into bed, Sarah stood by the window, gazing into the night sky, its darkness pregnant with possibilities. The coffee shop would be filled with chatter, laughter, and most importantly an audience for her journey. She could easily slip back into the shadows, but a part of her wanted to step into the light. What if today was the day she revealed her truths? What if she allowed herself to be vulnerable? The thought frightened her, yet it also offered an intoxicating sense of hope. The next day she dressed carefully, choosing a simple blouse and jeans. She wanted to appear approachable, but not overly polished. Sarah took a deep breath before exiting her house. The familiar path to the coffee shop twisted in her mind, reflecting her own journey over the years. Fraught but moving forward. Once inside, she scanned the room, her heart pounding against her ribcage. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with baked goods, awakening her senses. As she settled into a corner, she spotted familiar faces, some smiling, some serious, a few casting sideways glances. Hey, Sarah. The cheerful voice belonged to the woman who had initially welcomed her into the community. Hi, Sarah replied, her voice trembling slightly. I can't wait to try those brownies. The woman added, a warm smile reaching her eyes as more people gathered. Sarah's resolve began to solidify. This was her chance. Each voice around her felt like an echo of camaraderie. Yet, just as she gathered the courage to move towards the center of the group, the familiar woman from the evening of the bake sale stepped forward. Her expression unreadable. In that moment, Sarah's pulse quickened. Would the laughter return? Or were there judgments waiting to surface? Maybe this was the encounter that would change everything. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, the woman pointed at her, a bemused smile on her face. I've heard there's a real secret ingredient behind those brownies. A wave of laughter erupted, flowing through the cafe like a current. Sarah felt her heart stall, but then she noticed Ethan clapping excitedly from a table in the back. He beamed with pride, and suddenly, the humor of the moment pierced her anxiety. Just then, Sarah could either ride that wave of laughter or crumble under its pressure. The choice felt monumental. What would she reveal? What would she do next? As her gaze darted from the crowd to the woman's expectant look, Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline. This was it. Would she seize the moment and let the truth spill out? Or would she hold back, clinging to the safety of silence once again? The crowd's eyes were glued to her, and for the first time, Sarah truly understood the weight of vulnerability. Maybe I will reveal my secret, but first, the anticipation hung thick with suspense as she considered her next words. Let me just say one thing first, Sarah began, her voice steadier than she expected. The laughter settled, and a tangible silence enveloped her. She felt the weight of their attention, but this was also her moment, one where she could either maintain the laughter or turn it into something deeper. She cleared her throat. I never thought I'd be here today, sharing something so personal. Her heart thudded loudly in her chest, and she could feel Ethan's eyes on her, encouraging her silently from across the room. Life hasn't always been easy for me. I faced my fair share of struggles. A few heads nodded, some faces softened in empathy. It felt good to acknowledge the truth she had buried for so long. The woman who had started the laughter leaned in, her expression shifting from playful curiosity to genuine concern. We all have stories, Sarah. We're here ready to listen. Taking a deep breath, Sarah continued. This is my first step towards sharing not just my brownies, but part of myself too. With that, she glanced down at the brownies, their warm, rich smell swirling temptation into the air. Ethan sat up straighter, the pride on his face fueling her courage. I spent years hiding from my past, ashamed of things I thought defined me. But today I want to show you what really matters. It's not just about baked goods, it's about connection. Her gaze swept across the crowd, seeking understanding, and what she found stunned her. Encouragement. It was as if they were all collectively leaning in, open to whatever she had to say. Over time I've learned that love is found in the simplest moments. Her voice cracked slightly, and she paused to gather her thoughts. In the laughter of a child, the warmth of friendship, and yes, even in a batch of brownies. She pointed to the pan resting on the table. I used to be afraid that my past would overshadow any light in my life. But today I choose to celebrate those moments instead. I want my son to know that vulnerability is a strength, that allowing ourselves to be seen is how real connections grow. The room felt charged with an emotional current, the sounds of steam rising from coffee machines and soft chatter fading into a quiet hum. For the first time, Sarah realized she wasn't just sharing her struggles. She was inviting others to witness her growth, to become part of her story. As she glanced towards Ethan again, she caught his wide-eyed admiration. He was proud, more than proud, he was beaming. And that made every trembling word worth it. Sharing these brownies with you today is my way of saying I trust you. I hope they remind you that we're all in this together. A few heads nodded again, voices chiming in with agreement. The laughter from before had transformed. It was no longer just light-hearted teasing but warm camaraderie. As she finished, a round of gentle applause broke out from the crowd, and her heart soared at the acceptance she felt. There was no judgment, only shared understanding. But then the familiar woman stepped forward again, a more serious look on her face. Sarah, thank you for that. But can I ask something? The space shifted, her breath catching. What did this mean? Have you ever thought about what it would be like to share your whole story? The question hung in the air like a low cloud, heavy with anticipation. Sarah's heart raced again. Would she be brave enough to go further? What would that mean for her and Ethan? The unexpected turn of the moment sent ripples through her mind, igniting a flutter of possibilities. Would this be the next chapter in her journey? Or would it lead to more questions than answers? Gathering her strength, Sarah felt an inner resolve building. I think maybe I am ready to share more. And just like that, the door creaked open, revealing a path she hadn't dared to envision before. But with the sweet scent of brownies in the air and Ethan's unwavering support behind her, Sarah took one brave step forward into the unknown. What else would she uncover within herself? And what could those hidden secrets blossom into? The moment hung in the air, as if time had slowed down just for Sarah. She could feel all the eyes on her, probing yet kind, waiting for the floodgates to open. Taking a deep breath, she pushed her hair back and looked directly at the woman who had asked the question. Sharing my whole story, it feels like a leap, Sarah confessed, her heart racing. But I think I need to. There was something liberating in the admission. As if she had officially granted herself permission to explore that uncharted territory. She took a small step towards the group, and the warm light surrounding her felt more inviting than intimidating. I grew up in a small town just like this one, she began softly. Life was simple but not always kind. She couldn't help but notice how the crowd shifted, leaning in closer. They were with her. I was that awkward kid, always trying to blend in. But inside I felt completely out of place. Sarah's cheeks flushed with the memories that surfaced. Then there came a day when everything changed, a tragedy that redefined who I was. Visions of her younger self flashed in her mind. The stinging loss. The aching silence after a loved one's laugh went quiet. Each moment felt like a pebble thrown into an emotional lake, rippling out in ways she couldn't have imagined back then. Her voice trembled slightly as she continued. My mother, she passed away when I was just 16. I felt lost, abandoned like a ship on a stormy sea without a compass. The crowd shifted again, a quiet gasp weaving through the audience, an acknowledgement of shared pain. But she pressed on, empowered by their empathy. I thought I had to fend for myself. I built walls thinking they kept the pain out. Instead, I isolated myself from the love around me. A few faces in the crowd reflected understanding, recognizing the weight of that solitude. The struggles of reaching out and connecting felt universal, and in that moment, Sarah saw a glimpse of resolve flickering within their eyes. Ethan stepped a bit closer, his pride palpable, urging her to go deeper. But then came the day I discovered baking. It felt like magic in my hands. I turned grief into something tangible. I started making cakes for friends, and for the school bake sale. It was in those moments that love found a way back in. Laughter bubbled up again. But this time it was paired with nods and smiles. She could see others leaning forward, enchanted by the simple notion that something as ordinary as baking could heal. I learned that sharing is what connects us. That even in our darkest moments we can find love and joy in the simplest things, a warm slice of cake, a shared laugh. Sarah continued, her voice steadying now. It took years for me to embrace my past. I finally realized that those experiences shaped who I am, not defined me. Her heart thumped loudly in her chest. This was her truth. As she swept her gaze across the room, she saw something shift. People were opening up, connecting in vulnerability. Stories untold danced in their eyes, and she yearned to hear them, as much as they had heard her. Maybe we all have a piece of ourselves to share. Sarah paused, letting the thought linger. An invitation not just for herself, but for the community around her. What stories lay beneath the surface? Then the woman stepped forward again, her own eyes shimmering with a hint of unshed tears. I think you just did more than share your story, Sarah. You gave us permission to open our own. A warm buzz rippled through the room, transforming the air into something electric, something passionate. What happens next? Someone asked, a genuine curiosity in their voice. The question ignited a flicker of excitement inside Sarah. Well, she began slowly. Maybe it's time we all take a leap together. With hearts racing and possibilities hanging thick in the air, Sarah realized that this was just the beginning. Just as stories unspooled at their pace, she felt ready to discover where courage would lead her next. What secrets would emerge when they all pulled back the curtain of their lives? As the buzz of excitement filled the room, Sarah felt a wave of warmth wrap around her. The shared energy sparked by her words ignited a collective yearning for connection. It was as if the invisible threads of their stories began to weave together, forming a tapestry of shared experience and empathy. Let us start with a few volunteers, she said, her voice steady yet inviting. What stories are you ready to share? A moment of silence lingered, and then one by one, hands began to rise. An older man with graying hair, his voice thick with emotion, stood up first. I wasn't always this confident, he admitted. It took me years to be comfortable with my own skin. The room listened intently as he recounted years spent fighting his inner demons, wrestling with a past he felt ashamed of. There was a quiet acceptance in the atmosphere, a feeling that everyone was rooting for him. Next, a young woman with bright blue hair stood, her smile wide yet revealing vulnerability. I always felt invisible, like no one could see me until I decided to express myself through art. It saved me in ways I can't explain. Gasps of recognition rippled through the audience. They each saw pieces of themselves reflected in her journey, the courage to be different, to break free of expectations. As the stories unfolded, Sarah watched the room transform. Faces glowed with understanding, eyes shone with tears of both joy and sorrow. She felt the healing power of shared experiences, a kind of catharsis that lifted the weight off their shoulders. Ethan stood by her side, beaming with pride for the bravery everyone exhibited. This is amazing, he whispered, squeezing her hand. You've created a space for healing. As more people spoke, Sarah found herself lost in the beauty of their vulnerabilities. Each voice revealed a hidden story, a scar or wound that had shaped them. With every truth shared, the connection between them deepened. In that moment, Sarah realized she didn't have to be the only one leading the charge. This wasn't just her journey. It was a collective awakening. She felt a sense of purpose this community had sparked within her. But as the stories flourished, so did the fear of the unknown. What would happen when the last story was told? Would they slip back into silence? Would they let this newfound connection fade? like delicate petals in the wind? Is anyone else feeling something profound happening here? She asked, her voice cutting through the emotional haze. A handful of heads nodded, but Sarah could see the doubt forming. I know it's hard to keep sharing. What if we fall back into old habits of hiding? What if we put up walls again? A man with kind eyes shook his head. But what if we keep this going? What if this is just the beginning? His words hung heavy in the air, compelling and charged. Sarah felt the charge reverberate inside her, electric with possibility. They didn't need to settle for silence any longer. They could create support networks, share art, and host community events bursting with connection and joy. Let us gather together, share more, and decide how we can uplift each other moving forward, Sarah urged, her heart racing. Who's with me? The room resonated with enthusiasm as hands shot up, voices intermingling with excitement. And just like that, they became a united front, a community where each unique story mattered. But amid the exhilaration, a shadow flickered in Sarah's heart. What would this truly entail? Could she balance her past with this new collective journey? As the energy surged like a tidal wave, she couldn't shake the thought. Was she ready for the commitment that lay ahead? What if facing the future meant confronting old fears once more? With these questions swirling, Sarah knew they were only beginning to peel back layers of their shared humanity. What revelations awaited them as they bravely ventured down this journey together? The days that followed were marked by a palpable excitement. Sarah threw herself into planning the next community gathering, a potluck infused with storytelling and connection. The town buzzed with anticipation. The whispers that had once filled the air with judgment were now laced with curiosity. People wanted to be part of this transformation. As the potluck approached, Sarah felt a rush of pride. She envisioned families coming together, sharing dishes passed down through generations, and stories bubbling to the surface. She imagined laughter mixing with the scent of home-cooked meals, a symphony of connection. With every cupcake and brownie she baked alongside Ethan, there was a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. Finally, the day arrived. The town square was adorned with colorful tablecloths, and laughter echoed off the walls of nearby shops. It wasn't just a gathering. It was a testament to resilience. Sarah stood at her booth, heart fluttering while she placed the last plate of freshly baked brownies on the table. Ethan zipped around, handing out flyers about their next event, a community bake-off to raise money for local charities. We can help others, Mom. This is perfect because we all love cookies, he exclaimed, his enthusiasm infecting everyone around him. As the townsfolk began to arrive, Sarah's heart swelled with a mix of hope and nerves. She scanned the crowd, spotting familiar faces, some warm, some tentative, but many more encouraging than before. Voices mingled and laughter cascaded like light through clouds. Gradually, people began to share their stories, just as they had vowed to. One by one, they gathered, forging connections that had once felt impossible. The woman who had initiated the conversation at the coffee shop stepped forward again. Every story we share helps us understand that we're all in this together. What Sarah has shown us is that vulnerability fosters community. As the afternoon wore on, the atmosphere shifted from one of hesitation to camaraderie. People spoke openly about their struggles, the loss of loved ones, battles with anxiety, and triumphs over adversity. Each tale seemed to draw the community tighter, revealing the threads that bound them as neighbors, friends, and even family. Ethan watched wide-eyed as he sat beside his mom, occasionally chiming in with enthusiastic remarks about her brownies. These are the best. My mom makes them with love, he declared, filling the space with joy. Sarah glanced at him, overwhelmed with gratitude. This young boy encapsulated the very spirit she had fought so hard to cultivate. Then, just as the energy surged into a celebration of openness, it bubbled over into a collective moment of realization. Sarah stepped forward, emboldened by the stories she had listened to. Thank you all for being so brave. It's incredible to see how far we've come together. But let us not stop here. We can create a network of support where everyone feels safe to share. Imagine a club where we meet monthly to uplift one another, encourage artistic expression, or simply listen. The crowd erupted in applause, and Sarah felt her heart soar. They weren't just sharing food. They were sharing hope. Just then, the woman who once carried skepticism stepped forward. Her face softened with sincerity. I'd love to help organize the next gathering, Sarah. What you've started here is beautiful and I want to be part of it. In that moment, a new chapter began for both Sarah and the community. The bonds formed that day resonated deeper than any social gathering preconceived by judgments. They had shared their stories, forged new friendships, and finally united in understanding. Sunlight dipped low on the horizon, painting everything in warm hues. The energy was electric with possibility, and Sarah felt a shift within herself. She no longer carried the weight of judgment. She had chosen to embrace the beauty of connection. As the evening came to an end, people lingered, reluctant to leave the warmth of shared laughter and stories. Sarah turned to Ethan, his eyes sparkling with joy. "Mom, can we do this every day?" She laughed, pulling him closer. "Every day might be a stretch, but we can continue sharing our stories and love whenever we can. Plus, there's always more baking to do." And together, they watched as a new beginning unfolded in their small town, a transformation forged through vulnerability, understanding, and the sweet bonds of a shared human experience. This is it. This is the moment that Sarah emerged not just as a baker, but as a beacon of love and resilience that her community had long needed. Together, they were learning that every secret, every struggle, could blend into a beautiful recipe for connection. As the sun sank beneath the horizon, Sarah's heart felt fuller than ever. They had stepped into the light together, and it illuminated a path of endless possibilities. Now don't just stand by, this is where you come in. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. You need to subscribe now. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really helps and makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Join the journey.